Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I did a long live stream where I drank too much bourbon and watched a very disappointing video from Michael Eline. I don't blame anybody if they don't watch it. It's long, it's stupid. Here are the major points. Number one, whenever a Chile-esque person, i.e. a Dunning-Kruger auditor, cop watcher, someone along those lines, says to a cop, you can't solicit a trespass, they're not saying anything about soliciting the auditor to commit the crime of trespassing. They're talking about specifically asking the landowner or someone with the apparent authority to trespass you for the convenience of the cop. In the video that I was referencing in my video, Chile was recording a stop of some sort in a gas station. So he was in a gas station parking lot. The cops were obviously annoyed with him, and one of the cops asked someone who worked there, maybe an employee, maybe an owner, who knows, if that person would like the cop to trespass Chile. And Chile responded, you can't you can't solicit a trespass. That's a federal crime. Well, so now we know what soliciting a trespass is. It's something that's entirely different from soliciting the crime of trespass. Now, I have not seen any state anywhere that makes it a crime to solicit a trespass. Not solicit the crime of a trespass, but to solicit a trespass. And it's specifically not a federal crime, which I believe that Mr. Aileen agreed with me that it's not. There is no federal crime about soliciting a trespass. And as defined, I have not seen any state or municipality that has that as a crime. Now, I could be wrong, which is why I said as a practical matter, you don't see anybody being charged with it. But show me a cop who is charged with soliciting a trespass, i.e. asking a landowner or someone with apparent authority to trespass you for the convenience of the cop. Show me one cop who's been charged with that, or convicted. Convicted would be great. That would be phenomenal. Speaking of which, conviction, being convicted, being charged with a crime, is different than having a lawsuit filed against you. Mr. Aileen seems to have blurred these distinctions in his attempt to prove me wrong. He mealy-mouthed some mishmash. I'm mealy-mouthing some mishmash right now. He mealy-mouthed some mishmash about cops being charged with a crime, and then talked about lawsuits, and therefore I'm wrong. I don't know what he meant by that. He did not provide any specific examples. He did not show me a single cop being charged with that as a crime or being convicted of it as a crime. And a lawsuit, a civil suit, is entirely different than a crime. If it is a crime, you get charged with it. If it's a crime, it's either in the penal codes or some states still have common law crimes. But it's a crime. You may face incarceration for it. May just be fines, but you get what I'm saying. It's a crime. The state conducts it as a criminal matter, and the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. You have different protections from the federal constitution and from state constitutions in a criminal proceeding more than you do in a civil proceeding. In a civil proceeding, the state or someone else sues you. It's a lower burden of proof. Generally speaking, it's preponderance of the evidence. And you don't have a lot of the same constitutional protections. You may not have a right to a jury. You almost certainly don't have a right to have a lawyer appointed for you. Almost certainly. I mean, some states may vary. Check with the local attorney, blah, blah, blah. But there are different things. So don't equate. If I'm asking you to show me a cop that was charged with a crime or who was convicted of a crime, presenting me with some cop who is sued over it is an entirely different thing. And no evidence has been presented to me of a cop who's been successfully sued over it, even. So I don't even know if In theory, it's possible that there may, but I don't even know if that's ever happened. It's possible. That would be possible. That'd be much more possible than a cop being charged with it. And the reason why I say a cop isn't going to be charged with it, because a cop in his official capacity, I'm not saying a cop like on his own time has an issue with his wife, and tries to hire a hitman to kill her. That's an entirely different thing. I mean, that's a person who happens to be employed as a cop doing something in his off time, as you know. But a cop, acting as an agent of the state who solicits you to commit a crime, isn't the it's not going to be solicitation. It's going to be a different thing. It's going to be entrapment, and it's not charged as a crime. It's a defense for you to say, well, the cop entrapped me into this. The cop did all these things to get me to do it. I wouldn't have done this if the cop hadn't done all these things, right? So if the cop says, I'll give you $20 to go kill that person, that would be entrapment, not solicitation, if the cop is acting in his role as a cop, because he's trying to get you to commit a crime so he can arrest you, right? That's entrapment. I mean, in theory, I guess, depending on the state law, in theory, a cop could be charged with solicitation, but that all of this would depend on state law. Every state's going to be different, yada yada. Now, can a cop be charged with soliciting the crime of trespass, i.e., asking you to go commit the crime of trespassing, going to some place where you've been trespassed from, where you know you're not allowed to be, and offering you some inducement to do it. Hey, I'll give you $20 if you go trespass in Farmer Brown's field, right? Well, is that a crime? Maybe, and again, it's going to depend on state law. It's not a crime federally, but is it a crime under state law? Maybe. Is it a crime in Nevada? No. Nevada has 3 specifically enumerated crimes that are solicitation crimes: solicitation of prostitution, solicitation of murder, and solicitation of like aggravated assault or robbery or something like that. I mean, there's 3 specifically enumerated crimes that you can solicit. The crime is solicitation of this specific thing, right? It's not solicitation as a prefix to another crime, like for example, attempted whatever. You could add attempted in front of just about any crime. Again, depending on state law, maybe some states are different. Check with a local attorney, but generally speaking, attempted X, right? If you attempt to do something and you don't actually complete it, you could still get charged with the attempt, generally speaking. Conspiracy to commit, whatever. Solicitation may be treated like that in some jurisdictions. I know in Tennessee, they treat solicitation as you could solicit any crime, and it's just like a prefix to any crime. Solicitation to commit whatever, right? But that's not the way it is in Nevada. So you really need to know what jurisdiction you're talking about for the solicitation to commit a crime, which again, no one was talking about other than Michael Eline. So Eline, whatever. So that's weird that he brought it up, but I mean, congratulations for trying to teach people about something you know nothing about and failing so miserably. What else? So then he brings up this case that I've never heard of, that doesn't deal with solicitation at all, let alone solicitation of the crime of trespass, and it is a civil case. And going back to what I was talking about previously, getting charged with a crime is different than being sued over a violation of rights or duties or contract disputes or whatever, right? A civil action is different than a criminal action. So I've never heard anybody bring up this case. I don't know why Michael Eline's bringing up the case. It has nothing to do with the topic at hand, but he brought it up. Congratulations, you disproved the application of a case that nobody has ever applied to this situation. So great, congratulations. This case that nobody's brought up, you said doesn't apply to the situation, and you're right, it doesn't apply to the situation. But then he goes on to say that it's not published, so therefore you can't cite it. To which again I have to say, where are we talking about? Could you cite that in California? Yes, you can cite that in California state court. It's an unpublished federal decision after 2007. To the best of my recollection, you can cite it in California. If it was an unpublished California Court of Appeals decision or an unpublished California Supreme Court decision, could you cite it in California? Absolutely not. You totally could not. It is prohibited by the rules of court, and it's not publishable means you can't cite. Well, with a little asterisk by you can't cite it, because I think there's like one or two very, very specific situations where you can cite an unpublished case, but you're not going to run into those. You're not going to run into one of those caveated exceptions to the rule. But have we ever seen someone cite an unpublished case? Absolutely. Go watch any of the videos that I've done where I've gone through any of the pleadings on James Freeman's case in New Mexico, Chili's case in Nevada, Floyd Wallace's case in Nevada, Chili's case in Ohio, Chili's case in Massachusetts against Kate and Josh Abrams. Unpublished decisions were cited left, right, and center. Unpublished district court cases where all you have is a LexisNexis citation, which means it's not cited in any, like it'd be FSUP or F3rd or whatever, uncited. And yet people were citing them and the court didn't care. And the court, in the court's opinions on various decisions, was also citing unpublished cases. What does that tell you? That tells you that at least in some situations, in some jurisdictions, for some courts, you can cite unpublished decisions. So how do you know when you can or you can't? Well, your best bet is to talk to an attorney who practices in the specific jurisdiction that you plan on making that citation in. That would be the best way to start, because that attorney will be able to tell you whether or not you can cite that specific case in that specific jurisdiction. Barring that, if you don't know an attorney or if you can't afford an attorney, check the rules of court or the rules of procedure for that specific. If there's rules of criminal procedure, or rules of appellate procedure, or rules of civil procedure, if there's local rules, if there's rules of court, if there's statutes, check the Constitution of the state. They might have included something in there about citations to authorities in the Constitution. I'm not saying that they did, but it could be there, so check it. Go to your local law library, find a local practice guide, see what they say about citations to authorities. But this blanket statement that you can't cite to this 11th Circuit case that because it's not published, I mean, it's dumb and it's wrong. It's as dumb and wrong as saying that you need just a blanket rule. You need a permit to protest. Bullshit. The exceptions to that rule that he made up are innumerable. His statement that public buildings, they can limit speech with reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. Well, maybe, unless it's a non-public forum like a post office or an airport, in which case they don't need reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. It could just be a restriction. As long as there's a legitimate government interest, the rule is rationally related to achieving that legitimate government interest, it's viewpoint neutral, and it's reasonable. Congratulations. It doesn't have to be a time, place, or manner restriction. So the statements that he makes just show that he's either half-assing this terribly, or he's not familiar with the subject matter, the material, or he's retarded. And again, I'm not saying he's a bad personal injury attorney. I don't know. I'm sure he's a fine personal injury attorney. I mean, he does have to, slum on YouTube with a monetized channel and shill his fucking blog to try to make some extra dollary dues. But I'm sure he's a fine personal injury attorney. He's just wrong on so many levels. So anyway, I hope you were more educated today after this 15 minutes of video than you were at the start of it. And have a great day. Thanks for watching.